Hello everybody, welcome to yet another overview on ATCB. Today we're talking about Descent, Journeys in the Dark, the second edition of the dungeon crawling board game from Fantasy Flight Games. It retails in the UK for around £60, and usually that will be the equivalent in, or not the equivalent, it will match in dollars because of the import price, so I imagine this is $60 as well. Yeah, I know. It's the import price of Fantasy Flight Games is huge. Okay. So, what is Descent? Well, as I've already said, it's a fantasy-based dungeon crawler where a number of players take on the roles of individual characters, like this guy whose head I'm holding and concealing from you. He's a wizard dude. And they roam around separate missions composed of these board things and different monsters, and they fight stuff, basically.
Character cards with the nice illustration of the character, names and different abilities. So they correspond to your figurines, basically.
And then, one of the players is the Overlord, which is kind of a Dungeon Master style position, although more directly antagonistic than the Dungeon Master would be traditionally, although that depends on your roleplay group, I guess. And these different missions can be strung together into a campaign, like one long campaign, or not, so you can play them individually, I guess. But really, it's the meat of the game is it lies in stringing it together in a campaign. As you go through a campaign, your heroes get better equipment, they get better abilities, the monsters become harder, the story progresses, and then it all ends and wraps up in a big kind of finale adventure. And that's the basic notion of most dungeon crawlers, and certainly Descent, as Sky almost collapses into a heap. As for the components of the game, the miniatures are all really cool. They're what exactly as you'd expect from Fantasy Flight miniatures. They're well made. They're good. They turn out good quality. I've very rarely had any that kind of had any flack on them or any bending or anything like that.
I really like this one.
That one's awesome. That's my favourite in the game.
It looks like a scary grown-up version of Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle.
I was going to say,
doesn't know
Calcifer. Yeah,
but I'm sure somebody.
I have seen Howl's, but I can't remember.
Crazy Fire Demon.
So the board bits, of which there are quite a lot, are all pretty, like nicely painted. They fit together really well. Yeah. There's lots of different card stacks. There's like items you could find in crates. There's starting equipment, and each different character also has their own deck of skills and equipment that they can buy and level up with. Lots of tokens, health and strain and so on and so forth. An Overlord deck, which the Overlord uses every turn to spring nasty traps and misfortunes on the unwitting adventurers. In terms of how the rules actually work, we don't, in these overviews, go into them in any detail, but fundamentally, it's quite a simple game, like down at the basic levels of it, in that heroes and monsters all have 2 actions every turn. The heroes can use those to attack twice, but the monsters can't. But otherwise, your heroes do various things like moving or resting to recover, or attacking or doing their own personal little actions or opening things or whatever. All the heroes go, all the monsters go, and draw cards as and when. It feels a bit redundant to go into the actual details of it because it's
I feel like there's a lot of things going on, but the game does most of the legwork for you.
Yes, that's a very good way of describing it. The way attacks work is that you have a certain number of attack dice based on the weapon you have and different things about your character. They have different things on them, which are like these hearts, which are damage. The little lightning bolts, which are surges, which you can spend to beef up your attack in different ways, depending on the equipment you're using. The numbers represent range, which obviously only comes into consideration when you're doing a ranged attack. And then you roll those against your opponent, who is rolling defense dice like these. And it's very simple. These blocks prevent these damages, and anything left over is damage applied. And then I feel like if I went into any other detail about exactly how movement works or exactly how the different actions work, it would be too... I mean, you don't really need to know.
One other interesting thing is the boards have sections of movement which are... areas which are harder
difficult
to
terrain
move through
and stuff like that.
kind of thing.
I mean, it's just the kind of stuff you'd expect, really. And most of the rule nuance in the game is on the cards. in terms of the cards that your characters have and the different monsters and what abilities they might have. Yeah, so I don't want to get too much into it because otherwise it gets a bit, I don't know, redundant on how to describe it. If you've played Imperial Assault before, it's basically the same game, with the caveat that there's some elements that are quite different. And you know what? We might be about to talk about that in quite some detail in the roundtable that we're about to have. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for Descent. Yeah. In a way, if I said more about Descent, I'd be saying a huge amount, and we'd be here for an hour.
Yeah.
In terms of the rules.
Well, you explain one detail, and that ties into another.
Yeah, sure.
Just can't stop.
It's worth noting, I think we've already said, the bits that we've said are good, but I mean, it's Fantasy Flight games. You know exactly what you're getting when you get Fantasy Flight stuff. Everything is quality, everything is well art designed, everything is sturdy. It's redundant at this point to talk more about Fantasy Flight's components because they're all great and they have a very kind of in-house design in that all of it kind of looks kind of similar in the way they structure their cards and the kind of colour palette they use and stuff like that. But yeah, so without any further ado, let's all get together and have a nice chat about Descent and also maybe a bit about how Descent compares to Imperial Assault. Okay, so Descent Journeys in the Dark 2nd edition from Fantasy Flight Games. Caveat about how much we played this. We played a fair few games of it among us. We've never completed a campaign of Descent, so perhaps we're not in the best place to be talking about it as a whole. Don't watch this video. No, do watch this video.
No, it's true, because the point of this game is the whole campaign, developing your characters over time.
Sure.
Like, playing one mission by itself shows how the functional game mechanics work, but it doesn't actually show kind of the main joy of the game, which is getting...
If you would like to
cool
see a mission being played, there's a link in the video description below to just a simple one mission playthrough. But yeah, there is a caveat in this. We haven't completed a full campaign, but we have played a few missions of a campaign. We know how the campaign mechanics work, and we know roughly, because they are very similar again to Imperial Assault. Okay, let's just talk about the game first and not start rambling about Imperial Assault. Let's get that out of the way of just a summary of it.
That would be easy for me since I haven't played Imperial Assault.
Yes, absolutely. So as a game individually, there's nothing wrong with Descent whatsoever, and that sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it is fun.
It's good.
It's quick, relatively quick for what it is, although it could fall horrible victim to quarterbacking, which for those out there, if you don't know, is one person basically taking over the group and trying to determine...
Or at least the newer players might just not play.
Sure. But it's very simple, I think. It's easily explained. As you said before, it does a lot of the work for you. In terms of the rules laid out. It's a fairly simple and straightforward dungeon bashing game that I'm finding myself not able to say an awful lot about because I've played quite a lot of dungeon bashing games, and this almost feels like the default.
Yeah, it's like the perfect middle ground stereotype, just normal dungeon crawling fantasy game.
Fantasy based thing.
That's it.
If your group wanted a simple fantasy dungeon bash, or a more combat-orientated D&D, or with less kind of GMing focus, or...
And less maths in it as well.
Less that's a beauty. That is a beauty of the Fantasy Flight dungeon crawl, be it this or Imperial Assault. Hardly any mental arithmetic.
Good.
You never end up to like 10.
You have almost everything referenced on the table in front of you in terms of your character.
The dice do it all for you in terms of...
Absolutely. The boards are always very easy to interpret because of the way it's laid out and clicked together. The components, as we said before, are all lovely. The amount you get in the game for like 60 quid, this is one of the rare examples of a Fantasy Flight game that's worth the import price. Because there's loads of stuff. Like, we haven't laid it out like we usually do with an overview because today we're lazy, apparently. Caveat. Today I am lazy.
We got models. Models are by far the coolest part.
So...
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, that's really cool, that one. How's it going?
That's really cool. And it's tough to... Like, I get the sense from a few games that, like, some of the balance issues that say are prevalent also in Imperial Assault between the Overlord and the heroes, that is certainly there. And like, if you're someone who wants the game a really finely balanced dungeon crawler that will self-regulate and kind of compensate back and keep it competitive, I can't imagine, having not played a full campaign, admittedly, I can't imagine this is the game for that.
Mm.
Because if they perfected that, then it would have been an Imperial Assault.
Mm.
And this is not an Imperial Assault. And having played a few missions of this, I got the distinct advantage as the Overlord, but the Overlord is at a disadvantage in
Yeah.
the Senate.
I think, to be honest, it's a game that's like, if someone really, really wants to win, especially the good guys, they can win. And like,
Yeah.
if the bad guy really, really wants to win, he can play in like a really kind of exploitative, stupid way that doesn't make any sense.
Annoying way,
Like,
yeah.
run the big boss away and hide him in a corner behind all his little minions in a stupid way if he wants to.
Yeah.
You know, you and like use little cheat
Yeah.
exploit. I mean, you can do this with the mechanics, but it just doesn't make sense.
There are some more competitive Dungeon Bash games out
Yeah.
there, and I always get the sense with the Fantasy Flight ones that there's a certain amount of just telling a story with it, and you want to like have the kind of the experience of, you know, making the game flow by maybe compromising tactically in a few areas, which I realise is something that will make certain people watching this scream out loud. The notion of sacrificing precious activation efficiency, but fuck it, that's how I like to play games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've just talked. Other people say things about Descent without referencing Imperial Assault before we get into the meat of it.
I think I already said my thing. It's like a roleplay less maths less part of Dungeons and Dragons, which
Yeah.
yeah.
It's remarkable that such a
throw
big box
role-playing
has
in
so little to say about
You
it.
could probably throw the role playing in if you wanted to as well.
Yeah,
you definitely
it's certainly
could.
feasible, yeah.
I would say it also feels a bit like when you're. It's sort of as if the DM is almost the entertainment rather than an actual like threat.
Yeah,
So-
that in that kind of
so
role-playing way.
If you were in a particular group, it would be a certain kind of person who would choose to be the DM because
Absolutely.
they would be basically just willing to be the entertainment for the rest of the group.
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
being the DM rather than an actual.
It's
like-
definitely got that vibe to it.
Yeah.
But you probably
competitive.
also maybe want them to be the person who either owned the game or had played it most, just to
Yeah.
have that kind of like
Yeah.
level of knowledge about it. So if you're a group that is entirely, if you've literally watched this video and you've never played a board game before, and I mean, great, kudos on watching it and everything. I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd recommend Descent. I wouldn't recommend Descent to brand new board gamers, not because of the complexity of the game, but because of the. Let me caveat that: brand new board gamers who have also never done roleplay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if this was like a tabletop game you started with, it's not bad for that. It's not bad. It's just the role of the Overlord requires, as you say, a certain understanding that you are maybe not just playing to win.
But
Yeah.
it is an excellent game for a person who wants to get lots of other people into board games. If there is someone who's willing to play that Overlord position, is not trying to beat them, but is trying to introduce them. Because the mechanics are so simple and very intuitive.
Especially role players.
Exactly,
Who
yeah.
naturally adapt to a game like this.
I think it's very good for that sort of position.
It's also really good if you've got just some nerdy friends and if you fancy the idea of like a dungeon bash, especially a fantasy-based one. This is a great game for that. It's got a huge amount of expansions. The only real like financial and design criticism I'd level at it in terms of how it's put together and how you buy it as like a hobby or a franchise or whatever you call it like that, is it does do the thing that also carried over to Imperial Assault, where bosses, you just get the tokens for them in the game, and then you have to go out and buy the plastic figures for them, which is an extra cost. So if you think but all of that, start again. It's often used as a criticism for games like this, that they have so many expansions, you've got to keep up with them, you've got to do all this stuff. But that's up to you. And you'll get out what you put into it, you know? Like,
it's not like this box is lacking things like that.
It's not lacking, and it's not going to, you don't have to get everything. If you don't want to. And if you do want to, then that's not a problem. If you can afford to spend the money on it and you want to, then why not? It's the enjoyment you're getting out of it. This could certainly be a money sink, but that's up to you, as a consumer, whether you want to do that.
I think we said like it is it is very generally, this might lead us into talking about Imperial Assault a bit, it is generally quite fast-paced as well, which is nice.
Yes.
Because the rules are so very simplistic and very, you can see exactly what's going on with everything.
Yeah.
Actually, turns go quite quickly and there's not loads to think about, especially if you're kind of playing on your own basis. It's kind of and then
it may get
run
more
around all over the
complicated
place.
later in the campaign.
It will do,
as
certainly.
you get more items, more abilities.
Yeah.
Which is where the fun comes from, because as you start out, it's quite simple and basic, and then you kind of get
but
all
it's
these things
also
that
where
make you
the
awesome.
time sink comes from, because every turn you're like, what have I got in front of me?
Yeah.
But I would say that starting Descent is still quicker than starting Imperial Assault.
Definitely.
Because you start with multiple things. In Imperial Assault, you only really have one thing here.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the Death Star-shaped elephant in the room. So Imperial Assault is, for those who do not know, a very popular and similar dungeon crawler made by Fantasy Flight Games, set in the Star Wars universe. Yes, the rules are almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
There are a couple of differences. The first, and I would say the most significant, is that in Descent, all the heroes have their turn, and then the Overlord has their turn.
Everything.
Whereas in Imperial Assault, you alternate. A hero goes, an Imperial group goes. Hero, Imperial group, like that, until the end of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a hugely superior way to do it.
It adds a lot more thinking about the game. There's a lot more tactics to both
It does.
sides play.
It also makes it a lot more competitive.
Yeah, exactly, it does.
The other thing that Imperial Assault does, which interestingly, first edition Descent did, but this edition doesn't, is it has Threat, which is a kind of resource that the Imperial player in Imperial Assault spends on respawning or spawning new enemies, which isn't in this. You just get a reinforcement rule for a particular quest that just triggers at certain points. You just get more stuff, which happens in Imperial Assault as well. But there's also threats. As the Imperial player, you feel a lot more in control than you do as the Overlord.
I feel like they were trying to deliberately simplify Descent a little bit.
I think they definitely were.
Foreshadow the more complicated, more tactical, strategic Imperial Assault version.
Maybe I'm not sure they knew at that point. Maybe that's what they were doing. But I think the development of Imperial Assault was probably more to do with a reaction to criticism about Descent Second Edition.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of people far prefer the First Edition.
Yeah.
Which has been likened to in multiple places, including Shut Up and Sit Down. I think as a feeling like a medieval SWAT squad. Because you just have to move and move fast all the time towards your objective. Which, when I heard that, I went, "That sounds like Imperial Assault."
Like Imperial Assault.
Yeah. So there's that element, but there's a couple of other things that are different as well to do with how much strain you can spend to move, and a couple of other things, but nothing.
Getting health back.
Getting health back. Nothing too huge.
Well, the other big thing is dying. Yeah, that's quite a big difference.
Of course, the heroes in Imperial Assault can be downed and put out of the
removed
game.
completely.
Which again, I would say feels better for the Imperial player. As a method of control.
Whereas in this, if someone goes down, they just lose a turn at most, like a whole round at most, which is like.
And it does lead to me playing as the Overlord in here feeling like, well, should I bother trying to damage heroes?
Yeah, is there any point at all? Which is actually kind of fair.
Yeah, which I wouldn't.
Which again plays towards it's not strategic. You're not playing it really to try and beat us.
No,
you're playing it
but also,
there's a bit of role-playing.
What else can I do?
There's a bit of role-playing in there, though. You're just hitting us because that's what the bad guys would do.
Yeah,
it's
but
not strategic.
But that's boring.
Yeah, I know. I get what you mean.
If I'm just rolling dice and going, but these don't really make a difference.
Yeah.
Because the method to win is almost always move something to somewhere or eliminate all of something but not the heroes, and it's like...
No one's ever going to say it's more fun to play the Overlord in Descent than it is to play the Imperials in Imperial Assault.
I'm sure some people would, but I thoroughly disagree with them.
Yeah.
So here's the fundamental question. Which is the better game?
Yeah.
With a subsection, which is the better starter game? Better game, I would say unquestionably Imperial Assault, personally. I haven't played Descent First Edition, maybe I'd like that a lot too. I think Imperial Assault, because of a few fundamental rules differences, is the better game.
I would agree. Okay, I would say Imperial Assault is the better crafted game. I would rather play Descent.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be about the same as well. I would say fundamentally Imperial Assault is definitely a better game, but I think this comes partly from my not liking the strategic way that Imperial Assault plays massively. I don't necessarily
Having
want to
just
enjoy it.
finished the recorded campaign.
Yeah, exactly. Descent is actually fundamentally much quicker, and I think even later on it's going to be much quicker and much kind of simpler and more face value, which is a lot of people would say
you'll
bad,
have less monsters on the board.
Exactly,
you'll have
And I think that although I think this is a not necessarily as well crafted a game, I would probably prefer to play this more often than I would Imperial Assault.
Well, that's fair enough. An interesting point of view from you both, which is wrong. But no, I mean, no, I can totally understand that. Would we? But I might think that this is a better starter game than Imperial Assault.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say.
If you're new to dungeon crawls.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't say you can't start an Imperial Assault, but you have to be prepared to get quite in depth and heavy relatively quickly with that.
However,
so bad.
In terms of if people said which should I buy, Descent or Imperial Assault, all mechanics out of the window, all which is a better starter out of the window, I would just say, do you prefer Fantasy or Star Wars?
Yeah, I would
Star Wars Canvas
because the theme
the
theme is very important in both. Like if you don't like Star Wars, if you don't like
Star Wars, then God, don't get Imperial Assault.
As a noob to games, I would say that I don't know about Imperial Assault. I haven't played it, but I would also say that games that are simple and do the work for you are better because you can start playing strategically immediately rather than messing up every not being able to consider everything
between the gaps in the rules that are being done for you rather than having to incorporate it all.
More possibly a more fun game once you get more advanced to begin with can just mean a series of fuck ups basically.
We may be over exaggerating the more advanced nature of Imperial Assault
maybe.
But
especially near the beginning. Because fundamentally the mechanics are the same, it's just you have more
But I think
skills.
In defense of it, I don't think simplicity is always a bad thing.
No.
It's not even
agree.
that, it's just Imperial Assault also has a lot of the smaller rules which need more double check. Like the line of sight thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
What, sorry?
The line of sight thing.
The line of sight thing is slightly more complex.
It's just simple.
And for all me saying that the alternating turns thing is better, which I think it is as a mechanic, you are absolutely right. It makes the game more complex. Because you're not thinking on the hero turn, you're not going which of us needs to move before the other, which is actually quite a simple decision to make. You're thinking who needs to move before the next group they're going to choose moves, and what is the next one they're going to choose, and why would they choose that, and who needs to go before that, because...
I find Imperial Assault is a fun puzzle.
Yeah.
I devolve all board games to puzzles, but it's also incredibly stressful.
Yeah. There's so much...
Why I would go for
There's so much...
Partly depends who you're playing it with.
It does.
Yeah.
And especially on who the Imperial player is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's actually interesting. And having played this, I thought I'd come out at the other end of this, having not played Descent in a couple of years, going, God, Imperial Assault's so much better. And I do think it is better, but I think Descent has a place.
Yeah.
And it's a place where you could definitely point to it and say, this is better for your group.
Yeah.
This is a better one to start with, maybe. And this is undoubtedly better if you've got a group who is totally into elves and dwarves and not at all into stormtroopers. And
I agree fundamentally that I would recommend this purely based on theme more than anything else. Actually.
Yeah, I would totally. That would be the first question I'd ask.
Although the characters are a bit cliche and the models, I mean, but it's actually it's fun. It's good classic fantasy stuff, and the monsters are really cool and quite charismatic and interesting.
Yeah, and some of them are a bit different. You've got your goblins, but
Etin, two-headed giant troll monster.
Yeah, and you're this weird Merian fish shark beast thing.
Yeah,
it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Creepy.
I love how we usually spend a good chunk of time in these roundtables going, we don't even need to with a fantasy flight. We were just going, yeah, it's good, it's fantasy flight, what do you want?
The models are really nice. I like the models so much.
Here you go. Here's something that's unquestionably better in Imperial Assault, the dice.
Yes.
Yeah, the dice.
I was thinking that we were playing.
There's more different dice.
I mean, I don't care at all.
Also, I don't like hearts for damage done.
No.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, that was really confusing.
It's like it should be healing or something. Yeah.
I mean,
anyway, so the summary, I think, around the table is that There's some variation on whether Imperial Assault is
better.
There's a general agreement that Imperial Assault is the better game mechanically and strategically.
Yeah.
But this is a better starter dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
I would say dungeon crawler specifically. I wouldn't say if you've played dungeon crawlers before, but you want to get either Descent or Imperial Assault, you need to get Descent to learn Imperial Assault. It's not like that degree of it.
No.
But if you've not played anything like this before, Descent is a simpler,
Perhaps more
more
casual
straightforward
enjoyment as well.
And for for more casual groups who are into more knockabout, quicker stuff, then it's probably the better choice, and almost definitely the better choice if what floats your boat is fantasy and not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We've answered that question permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone else thinking of asking it?
No point.
We've done
Sorted.
it.
Forever.
In the video description below, there is a playthrough of the first mission of kind of the default introduction mission, Descent. If you want to see us play a full campaign of it, please do leave a comment. Leave likes, comments, and subscribes anyway. That's fantastic. We've also got a Patreon link below, and I won't link it below because it's kind of irrelevant. But we've also got a huge amount of Imperial Assault content on the channel, including a couple of full campaigns. If you go to the playlist, you'll be able to find them.
I mean, it's not like we prefer Imperial Assault or anything.
No.
We play them both evenly, totally.
Absolutely evenly. We never finished a
100%.
campaign of this, and we played multiple games. Yeah. But they're there if you want to check them out. And otherwise, thank you, and have a lovely day, and I hope you don't get shot by goblins. Bye.
Bye.